Gotcha! Hi, I'm Irving, and I have no life, just like you. So I was in my favorite game store one day when I wandered past a bin of 99-cent games for the PC. I saw one called Hidden and Dangerous 2. It's a World War II game about the British SAS, the elite troops that did all the missions nobody else had the skill, training, or balls to do. It's safe to say that the war might have gone on a lot longer if it wasn't for these guys. They quietly risked everything to preserve our freedom, and they're still doing it. So when you're freely surfing the net and watching game nerds like me, take a moment and thank these incredible people for their sacrifices in the name of your liberty. In a lot of ways, they're the British version of the Navy SEALs, except that we got Bin Laden and they didn't. Neener, neener. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the game. The screenshots on the box looked a little dated, but I like World War II games, so I figured for $1, why not give it a try? Was I ever surprised? It turned out to be one that I can play again and again and again. Since it was the second game in the series, I knew I had to get my hands on the first one and see if it was equally great. That's what we'll be looking at today, Hidden and Dangerous. It took a while, but I finally found one on eBay for a couple of bucks. This was the deluxe edition. It included several add-on missions that were released after the original game. I popped it in my computer, installed it, read the directions included on the disc, and fired it up. Was I ever surprised? These graphics aren't just dated, they're cheesy. The worst are the people's faces. They're awful. Check this out. They look like they got worked over by the plastic surgeon in BioShock. Features are all out of proportion, expressions are twisted, and of course, they all have really goofy hats. Most of them have lame nicknames, which is more than a little contrived. The whole thing feels really artificial, but hopefully the gameplay would make up for it. You have a pool of soldiers you can choose from. You pick a fairly large team, and then for each mission you choose 4 of them who actually go do the stuff. You equip them with guns and ammo, get a briefing about the mission, and off you go. Each soldier has ratings for shooting, stealth, endurance, and a few other things. Now when you get into battle, most of that doesn't mean squat because they all have the brains of an eggplant, but that's another matter. You have 3 different views available, one more or less from above, one a little closer, and a first-person view. You can switch from one soldier to another with the touch of a number, at least when it works. Every so often, when you hit a number key to switch to a different soldier, the guy you're currently controlling turns around. I have no idea why. This program is more than a little buggy. You can switch views with the zoom key, but most of the time there's no reason to. I found the middle view pretty useless. Expect to spend most of the game in first-person view. There's one good reason for this. In any of the other views, you really can't aim your weapon. In first person, you're looking down the sight of your weapon, but you also have a crosshair on the screen that's nowhere near your gun sight. Guess what? You'd better go with the crosshair because that's approximately where the bullets are going to go. So you don't aim your weapon, you aim a badly offset crosshair. In the other views, you can set the game to draw an aiming line that shows where your gun's pointing. But that's just disorienting because it never shuts off. When you're walking, it wobbles back and forth like a manic laser beam tied to an angry cat's tail. About the only time a third-person view is useful is when you're trying to climb down a ladder. Most other games either automatically put you on a ladder when you get into position, or have you perform some kind of action to get on it. In this game, going up a ladder is easy. Get close to it and hit your action key and you climb onto it. Going down is another matter, because in first-person view you can't tell where the stupid thing is, and if you move just a whisker too far, you fall instead of climbing. It doesn't matter if the ladder is 4 feet high or 400. If you don't hit the sweet spot exactly and hit your action key, down you go. So when you need to climb down, switch to third-person view, inch up to it and keep hitting your action key until your guy mounts the ladder. It's weird. Even weirder is your AI squad. The chair you're sitting on has more intelligence than these guys. There's only 2 basic commands you can give them: follow me and stop. When you tell them to follow, they might follow you directly, or they might take off running in a random direction and get themselves shot to pieces. The only sure way to know where they're going is to take control of each one and move him where you want him. And even then, there's no real guarantee he'll stay there. And if he does, there's a good chance that when you're not controlling him, he'll turn around and face a different way than where you put him, especially if he's lying down. And there's no apparent reason for it. They just do it randomly. You have 3 basic positions you can be in: standing, down on one knee, and lying down. If you get your men lying down, switch to another one and go off to do something, then come back, you'll probably find at least one of them doing this. Okay, are they humping the ground or do they just really need to pee? These guys get hung up on obstacles, get in your way and won't move. They're idiots. It's some of the poorest AI I've ever seen, even from a low-budget PC game. The enemy AI, on the other hand, is superhuman. You can't even see them yet. They're not more than 1 pixel high, and already they're blasting the crap out of you. You have a certain amount of health, there's no way to restore it, and the enemy can hit you flawlessly with a pistol from 300 yards away. And that's the easy version. I haven't tried it on anything harder, and I don't intend to. For all I know, in the harder versions, they can see through walls and shoot around corners. No thanks. They're also tougher than steel. For example, it usually takes 2, sometimes 3 direct hits from a high-powered sniper rifle to bring them down. The game does have some appeal, at least in places. The levels are divided up in a way I hadn't seen before, geographically. You do a set of missions in Italy, a set in Yugoslavia, and so on. It gives the game some excellent continuity, and the missions flow from one to another pretty smoothly. They're diverse and interesting, which is what kept me playing it. One of the SAS's strongest assets was their amazing stealth, and this game emphasizes it. If you head into a mission standing tall, guns blazing, you'll go down in a matter of seconds. Be sneaky. Spread your men out, come at the enemy from several directions, and concentrate on the hidden part of Hidden and Dangerous. That's the only way to beat this game. And yes, I have beaten it. Twice. To help you with the stealth and strategy aspect of it, you have a tactical map. It shows you the layout of the mission area, where you are, where enemies are if you've spotted them, and gives you the ability to direct your men to various places and tell them to do various things. It takes some getting used to because unlike the Brothers in Arms games, this one doesn't give you any kind of tutorial on how to use it, and the manual doesn't tell you a whole lot either. So all you can do is experiment with it and figure out the best way to do things. Once you get a handle on it, it does come in handy in a number of places. Or at least it should. I mainly use it when I'm in "where the hell am I" mode. The problem is the same as with everything else involving the AI. You can direct a man from point A to point B, but once you give the go command, which is nothing more than exiting out of the map, he'll go there. Then God only knows what he'll do. He might wander over to point C, or he might fall off a cliff, or he might sit there and play with himself and not notice the enemies walking up and blasting him. Here's a good example. This is the guy I was controlling right here. I told the other 3 to follow me. This guy did. But somehow, these 2 wound up clear to heck and gone over there. What are they doing there? Who knows? They sure don't. Now, it wouldn't be so bad, except that, see the black parts of the ring around my character? That means I'm dead. A German came along and killed me. This guy managed to shoot the German, but if all 3 of my men had been with me, they might have gotten the German before he got me. It's crazy. That brings me to another unique feature of this game. If a man on your squad gets killed, he's gone for good. There's no regenerating at all here. Lose a man, he's lost. Something I do like is the ability to save the game anytime. Because those enemy AIs are so good at what they do, I always save early and save often. There are some missions where I save every time I manage to kill a single enemy. That's a little extreme, but basically you want to save every time you accomplish something, especially if it was fairly difficult, because if you want to make it through the mission with all your men alive, that's about the only way. It's nice being able to save, but it's bothersome to have it be so necessary. It interrupts the flow of gameplay, throws your rhythm off, and makes you lose your religion. But it really is the only way to get through this game because the odds are so firmly stacked against you. So expect to save every few seconds sometimes and be prepared to reload your last save. A lot. You have 2 speeds for your character, walking or running. When you're crouched or lying down, you can use the run command and make him move a little faster, but not much. and it really throws off your ability to look around, peek around corners, and otherwise maneuver. That's the other big problem, response to the movement controls. There's no consistency at all, and too often if you try to look around or swing your crosshair around to deal with the guy that's shooting at you, it just won't go. It's especially problematic if you're lying down because these guys seem incapable of turning their heads. They have to wiggle their whole bodies every time they need to move a lousy inch. Sometimes even when you're standing, the character's response to movement commands varies from slow to just the opposite. If you need to open a door, you have to stand up. You can't even do it from the kneeling position. Move up to the door, hit the action key, and you'll stand up first. If you've ever played something like Splinter Cell, you know that with other games you can open a door from a crouched position. Not here. You stand tall and paint a target on your chest before you open that door. Of course, if there are enemies behind the door, this makes you that much easier to hit, as if they need the extra advantage, and there's nothing you can do about it. It all seems like some kind of sinister plot to make you die more. For all I know, that's what it is. There are a lot of things the game can't combine. The most frustrating one is, while you're moving, you can't reload your weapon, or look around, or burp, or do anything else. Hit your reload key while you're moving and nothing happens. When you need to reload, you have to stop. Of course, the enemy doesn't stop, which makes you totally vulnerable because you can't even move out of his line of fire. Multitasking just doesn't exist in this game. So that means that sometimes you really have to get creative to accomplish your mission. It's annoying, but every so often it can be kind of fun to come up with workarounds, if that's something you enjoy. If not, expect to curse a lot. One of the most irritating examples of this inability to multitask is when your character dies. Actually, every character who dies in this game has to make a big production out of it. He falls down, thrashes weakly a couple of times, then sinks into death. When you get killed, it's no different. Watch this.
What you say? That you only meant well, 'cause you did. What you say? That it's all for the best.
The worst part is, while he's doing this Oscar-hopeful death scene, you can't do anything else. More than once I found myself saying, "Just get it over with!" Like that helps, but it's just so frustrating. The other big problem is friendly fire. Whatever you do, don't be standing in front of your men when the enemy appears, because he'll just start shooting and kill you in the process. The first time this happened, I couldn't figure out what got me. It took 2 more times to grasp that it was my own guy who was shooting me. Is that really so hard for a programming team to plan for? A couple of other times, I told the squad to follow me and went into a room. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but follow implies staying behind me, right? Not to these clowns. I'd open the door, step into the room, and take aim at 1 or more enemies. Just as I started the fire, one of these geniuses ran right into my line of fire and I killed him instead. It was hard to decide if I wanted to start at the checkpoint again so I could get through the mission with all my men alive, or if it was more satisfying just to keep going because he was obviously too stupid to be allowed to live. I'm still not sure. Several times you have to place explosives to destroy something that's crucial to the enemy. The big problem is, where do you put them? There's no indication. One mission in the 3rd set is especially frustrating because you're supposed to blow up a big attic full of archives and you have 2 bombs to do it with. If you don't put the bombs in exactly the right spots, it doesn't work and you have to either improvise or start over. But nothing in the briefing, the map, or anything else tells you where those exact right spots are. So unless you cheat and read the walkthrough on GameFAQs or something, which of course I would never do, expect it to cost you several tries. Watch what happens after the bombs go off.
'Cause I'm TNT, I'm dynamite, TNT, and I will not fight, TNT.
What happened? Nothing! I should have gotten a big graphic telling me the objective was complete, but apparently I didn't put the bombs in the right places. Thanks for nothing, game designers. It's the same in the first mission set when you have to blow up some oil tanks. Where do you put the bombs? On top of the tanks? At the base? Between them? You just have to guess. It's yet another case of what I call lazy programming. There's a mission at the end of the 3rd set, which happens in Germany, that's pretty well impossible because the enemies are so freaking superhuman. Basically, you're at the end of the line and all the Germans in the world are coming at you. The briefing says to move in two-man teams and work your way back to the plane that's supposed to fly you out, but it doesn't work. I got stuck on this mission and gave up on the game for about 4 months. Then one day when I was bored, I went back to it just for the hell of it. I did finally manage to get past that mission and finish the game, but only by losing at least one man. I really don't remember if I lost more than that, and considering how stupid these guys are, I didn't much care. But it was inevitable. It's frankly impossible to get out of this one with your whole team intact. It's ridiculous. And that's not the only mission where the briefing is a load of crap. In the Yugoslavia missions, there's one where you're told that one of your men has to find some civilian clothes, sneak past the Germans, and steal a boat so the team can move on to the next stage of the mission. If you try to do it that way, expect to either spend the rest of your life fiddling with this one mission or give up. Why? I'm glad you asked. As soon as you get near the boat, the Germans will come running and blast you. If you do manage to get on the boat and get it started, they'll shoot it until it explodes. Either way, it's bad for you. What you have to do is have all your men go switch to civilian clothes, one at a time, get them into a certain position, then wipe out all the Germans before you even get on the boat. And once you start the boat, more will come a-running, so you have to have at least one man facing the back so he can take them out as you pull away. In this and several other missions, you have some kind of disguise. The really dumb thing is, the disguises never work. As soon as the Germans can see you, they start shooting for no apparent reason. In one mission, you're actually disguised as a German officer driving a German car, and they're expecting a high-ranking officer to drive up any minute. Even so, they still might shoot as soon as they spot you, which of course is long before you can see them. Like a lot of other things in this game, it makes no sense at all. But wait, it gets worse. For the next stage of the Yugoslavia mission, the briefing says to drive the boat to a dock near your objective, have 2 men get out and the other 2 stay with the boat. If you do that, you're screwed. Why? This is why. You can just see the dock off there to the left, but before you even get close, these guys start shooting and blow the boat up. Needless to say, you and your team get blown up with it. Mission failure. What the hell? This is so poorly put together you can't believe half of what the briefings tell you. The first mission in Norway is another good example. You're supposed to sneak into this compound and plant a couple of transmitters so the Navy can shell the place and destroy it. The briefing tells you it's important to sneak in and plant these transmitters unnoticed. Unnoticed? Yeah, right! These enemies can see for miles even when it's snowing like it is in this mission. Sometimes I'm convinced they can see through walls. And you're supposed to get past something like 20 of them, half of whom are up high in machine gun towers without being spotted? I don't think so. The best thing to do is make extensive use of your sniper, work your way around the perimeter of the place, taking out the tower guys before they can draw a bead on you, then move inward and wipe out the rest of the Germans, then place the transmitters. It always seems to work that way. Whatever your mission is, you can't really do it until you wipe out all of the enemy, because just as sure as you leave one alive, he'll come along at the most inopportune moment and wipe out your whole squad. For each mission, you have to equip your team with weapons and ammo. There's an auto setup button that I recommend using as a start, but on its own, it's a joke. It always follows the same pattern. The first 2 soldiers get a Sten gun with 128 rounds of ammo, the third gets a sniper rifle with 40 rounds, and the 4th guy gets a Bren heavy machine gun with about 175 rounds. First of all, the Sten fires at such a high rate that it's empty before you realize what's happened, and it has a 32 round clip. That means 128 rounds are going to be gone in seconds. So the first thing you have to do is add as much ammo as you can spare to each of the guys with the Sten. Then, your sniper's constantly working, so he's going to run out of ammo early on too. So you have to load him up. But more important, he finds himself in plenty of close-in situations, and in those cases his high-powered scope is useless. So you better give him a backup weapon, usually a Sten of his own. By the way, keep in mind that he's nowhere near smart enough to make the switch on his own. So when you get him into a close-quarters situation, you have to take control of him and switch weapons. But I digress. The Bren that the 4th guy carries has a good punch, but he always has to lay down to use it. He can't fire it from the hip at all, so he has to stop, lay down, load the magazine, pull the bolt, take aim, and get shot to pieces like a rabid dog by the time he gets done with all that crap. so most of the time he's useless. The best thing to do is dump the Bren and give him a stand too. I also recommend having a second sniper rifle because most of the time you can definitely use at least 2 long-range shooters. And God forbid you depend on the auto setup to give you things like explosives. It always gives each man exactly 1 grenade. Thanks a bunch! Of course, you pretty well never use them. Trying to throw a grenade in this game is like trying to shoot your foot off. You can't control where it goes, and most of the time it either bounces off something or doesn't go far enough. Either way, it blows you up.
Horrible, dangerous stuff blows you up.
The auto setup also gives each man a knife. Why? Through the whole game you never, and I do mean never, get close enough to the enemy to use one. And since each man has a limit to the amount of gear he can carry, it's just dead weight. For some reason, this thing also gives one man a camera. A what? What the hell is that for? You're never told. It's also dead weight as far as I can tell, so you'll want to get rid of it. Another useless piece of equipment that it always gives somebody is a flare gun. Huh? Listen, these guys can already see me and hit me from miles away. I don't need to send up a flare that says,
I am a turkey. Kill me.
The auto setup, as I said, is a starting point, but it always requires a lot more tweaking than it should. The next to last mission in the main game is another good example of how lame the auto setup is. You're in Prague smuggling a German rocket scientist out of the country. You not only have to battle German soldiers, but the Czech civilians are running around shooting everybody in sight too. Oh yeah, there's also an artillery piece on a hill overlooking the town, and there's a tank guarding the main square. You do the auto setup and it gives you nothing at all to deal with the tank. So before you do anything else, add a couple of time bombs to your arsenal, because once you've been killed a dozen times by snipers, you'll need to sneak up next to the tank and plant one by it to destroy it. If you endure this game that far, you'll see there's also a bazooka available. So I can hear somebody say, "Hey Irving, why not use the bazooka?" Because if you get far enough away from the tank to hit it with the bazooka and not blow yourself up with it, the tank will be able to kill you with its cannon. Here's a hint. You don't want that to happen. Or if you're furious enough with your character, maybe you do. I'll leave that for you to decide. As you go along, you can pick up weapons and such from enemy soldiers that you've killed. Basically, you walk up to his corpse, hit a certain key, and this happens. Okay, that's just rude. Insert your own oral sex joke here. You also suffer from a massive lack of information. Here's a great example from the last mission. You've gotten the scientist to a nearby airport, and once you clear out all the Germans, an airplane will land to take him and you out of there. But you're warned that the plane will only wait 1 minute because it's so dangerous. Now, by the time the plane lands, there's not a single German left because you've managed to kill them all, so I don't know what's supposed to be dangerous. But that's the way the program wants it, so that's the way you play it. You have to position your men just so in order to gather them and get to the plane. But when you get to the plane, you have no idea what to do. I have the T key set up as my action key, so I walked up to the door of the plane and hit it. Next thing I knew, I was on the other side of the plane and the scientist was humping the door. Before I could figure out how to get back over there, the damn plane took off without us and the mission failed. Because the graphics are so poor, you can't see the little 2-step ladder on the side of the plane until you're right on top of it. You have to hit the action key, then climb the 2 steps. That would have been nice to know. In this mission, I also literally got shot through a forest. Going by the general proportions of the game, this forest was about 100 yards across and so solid I couldn't see a thing. But a guard in a tower on the other side of it shot me repeatedly and fatally. It's just more bad programming. There's really no way around it. I'm not going to go into the additional missions included in the deluxe edition, mainly because they're just more of the same. About the only thing that's a little bit interesting is, in one of them you actually get to use your knife. So in over 20 levels or missions or segments or whatever you want to call them, you use the knife exactly once. That merits 1 whoopee. If you can get through these bits of absurdity, some of the levels are pretty fun. I did get through them all, as I said, including the bonus missions. I then put the disc away and promised myself I wouldn't subject myself to that torture again. Famous last words because I had to play through it again for this review. Oh well, it just goes to show, never say never again. Hey, that'd make a good name for a... Never mind. Trust me, unless you're a hopeless masochist, you don't want to bother with this game. So why did I spend so much time talking about it? Because there really is some good news. In spite of being such a mess, the game somehow spawned a sequel. And in the second one, I am not exaggerating. They fixed everything I just mentioned. So next time we'll look at Hidden and Dangerous 2 and we'll have a lot of fun. Until then, I'm Irving and I have no life, just like you.